You ever look at the world and wonder if everything's connected? Math, art, even music? Well, today we're going to explore a really fascinating theory that says, yeah, it absolutely is. We're diving into this hand-drawn blueprint that claims to unpack a secret code, a code that links some of the universe's most fundamental ideas, numbers, shapes, and sounds. Okay, so it all kicks off with this incredible hand-drawn design. I mean, just look at it for a second. It's this beautiful, super complex web of lines and circles. But here's the thing. Its creator says this is way more than just a piece of art. They're saying there's a hidden logic, a secret pattern woven right into its fabric. So let's see if we can unpack it, right? Let's figure out what's going on here. All right, so how do we even start to make sense of all this? Well, the whole theory is really built on one single core idea, that basically everything with mass exists in one of two fundamental states. That's it. Simple as that. So on the one hand, you've got mass at rest. You can think of it as just a state of pure potential, just kind of sitting there. But then you've got mass in motion, and this is where things get really interesting and complex. The author gives each state its own formula, but the one for mass in motion is the special one. Why? Because it pulls in these huge universal constants, pi in the golden ratio, or phi. And right here, you can really see the difference visually. It's pretty stark, actually. Mass at rest is represented by just a simple circle. But look at mass in motion. The geometry just explodes in complexity. It becomes way more intricate. And you can see how all these different forces and shapes are starting to interact with each other. Okay, so now let's see how all of this builds into the core mathematical pattern, because this is where the author believes a hidden code really starts to reveal itself. All right, now this formula, this is basically the engine of the entire theory. Don't worry, you don't need to be a math whiz. It's how we calculate a special value the author calls I. Now, what I actually isn't totally defined, but we know it's derived from a circle's diameter and radius, along with those big cosmic constants we talked about, the golden ratio and pi. It might look a little complicated, but trust me, what it produces is absolutely fascinating. Okay, this is where it gets really, really cool. So the author took circles of all different sizes, with a radius from 1 all the way up to 12, and just plugged those numbers into the formula. Then they did one last calculation to find a specific ratio. Now, you'd think, different sized circles, different results, right? Makes sense. But that's not what happened. Not at all. Every single time, the result was the exact same number. And that reoccurring number is 0.4167. That's the crucial piece of the puzzle here. It doesn't matter how big the circle is. From a tiny radius of 1 to a bigger one of 12, this exact ratio just keeps popping out of the mass in motion formula. It's a constant. So what is this mysterious number, this 0.4167? Well, if you convert that decimal into a fraction, it's pretty much exactly 5 divided by 12. And according to the author, this 5/12th ratio, well, it's no accident. It's not a coincidence. They believe it's the secret key to the entire system. So burn this fraction into your brain, 5/12. Okay, so we've got our mathematical key, right? 5/12. Now let's see how the author actually visualizes this whole system. I mean, how do you even begin to draw a universe that's governed by this one specific ratio? Well, it all starts with some principles from something called sacred geometry, which is basically the idea that certain shapes have a kind of universal, deep meaning. So you start by drawing a series of overlapping circles. And you see that little almond shape they create right in the middle? That has a name. It's called a vesica Pisces. And in a ton of ancient cultures, it was seen as this really powerful symbol, like a gateway or a portal between worlds. So what's next? Well, you literally just connect the dots by drawing straight lines between the key intersection points of those circles. Something really cool happens. A perfect six-sided hexagon just materializes right there at the heart of the whole construction. And from that central hexagon, the whole pattern just starts to expand outward. It's like it's growing. You draw more lines, you connect more points, and you start layering more and more complex shapes on top. But it all stems from that simple initial foundation of just a few circles and that one hexagon. And that brings us right back to where we started, the completed blueprint. But now, hopefully, it's not just a random collection of lines to you. You can see it as a visual manifestation of a whole process. It's like a geometric story that started with one simple formula and just grew and grew into this incredibly intricate design. So we have the math, check. We have the geometry, check. But so what? What does it all mean? Well, this is where the author makes the final and honestly, the most surprising connection of all. They link this entire system to the world of music. Hey, remember that fraction, the 5/12th? Well, the author states it directly. This wasn't just some random mathematical curiosity. It has a real profound significance in music theory, specifically in how we divide up musical scales and create harmony. Okay, so think about it. In Western music, we generally use a 12-note scale. That 5/12 ratio points to a very specific musical jump called the tritone. And trust me, you've heard this sound a million times. It's famous for being really tense, kind of unsettling. Think of the opening notes of the Simpsons theme song. That's a tritone. It's this interval that just begs to be resolved. And somehow it's baked right into the author's formula for motion. So, what are we supposed to make of all this? Is it really just one giant cosmic coincidence? I mean, a formula for a moving object using these fundamental constants like pi and the golden ratio just happens to spit out the exact mathematical blueprint for one of music's most distinct intervals? Or has this designer actually stumbled onto something much deeper, a kind of hidden frequency that connects the geometry of the universe to the harmony of music? Well, that's a question I'll leave for you to think about.